Welcome back, everybody. My name is Vandana, and I'm your guider of ceremonies for today. Now we come to our last session, last by no means least. AI, artificial intelligence. It's a buzzword that's being used in all sectors, but AI stands to make a huge dent in manufacturing. IACC and the Automation Alley are delighted to present the final panel discussion of this evening, or this afternoon, depending on where you are, focused on AI-powered manufacturing. We will hear from two luminaries, Kanchan Pant, COO of Sharda Industries, and Shefali Bansal, Program Director and AI's Apps Client Success Leader at IBM Software Labs, ably moderated by Prashant Pansare, the founder and CEO of Integr8. Prashant, over to you.
Hello and welcome to the yet another impactful and insightful session on Integrate India 2021. Friends, I'm Prashant Pansare and I am the panel moderator for this session. And I have with me two distinguished and accomplished IoT and Industry 4.0 leaders who are also going to share their insights with us. So throughout these sessions, there have been a lot of deliberations about how industry is changing, what is its impact on manufacturing and the manufacturing industry to revive and to compete globally, to bounce back on track, has been adopting and innovative every now and then. And that is also going to be one of the thrust area for our panel discussion today, that what are those emerging technology trends that are helping manufacturing to become more competitive and resilient in these today's uncertain times. So friends, manufacturing has always been one of the leading industries that has been embracing technologies like AR, VR, artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, blockchain, and those type of related technologies to its fullest extent. And manufacturing, supply chain, multi-mode manufacturing, where in true sense it actually unfolds the global potential to get into this smart factory concept, right? And if you look at the difference, or probably the evolution between factories and smart factories, is not only the digitization, but how these sensors are actually helping, sensor technologies are helping manufacturing processes, plants, products to build up the smart products and the digitized services out of these well-connected industrial internets, what we call in today's times. And where are the applications, or where are the value points the manufacturing is looking at, is to control the unexpected downtimes, or building very innovative and disruptive products for the global markets, how they can improve the operational efficiency, after sales service efficiencies, how the downtimes, transition times, your overall product quality, and the worker safety can also be transformed by using the latest technologies. When we look at smart cars and connected cars, if I have to give an example from automotive industry, they're not traditional cars. They are not only a traditional product, but they are smart cars. They are less of a car but more of a moving computer, and a bundle of technologies are inside it that's actually giving a very differentiated experience. Now, it's not just the product, but the complete supply chain, including manufacturing process, what happens on the manufacturing companies are helping them to decide that how they can compete and win in the marketplace. If you look at artificial intelligence, for that matter, is at the heart of Industry 4.0, and not only automating and improving the productivity, but usage of deep learning techniques and things like that are making the manufacturing processes more deeper and intelligent. Traditionally we would always discuss that you will have an input, process, and output. In today's AI context, it is input, machine learning, and output. And this machine learning and deep learning is not only speeding up and automating the manufacturing process, but it is bringing in a very insightful intelligence, foresights, predictions, to the entire manufacturing process. And we are going to, learn that in our course of discussion. So let me bring up to you who our panel is today. And I'm Prashant Pansare, moderator from Rubyscape Labs in Pune. We are a technology product company, software technology product company. We provide data science and artificial intelligence platform for manufacturing companies. And I have with me a very distinguished and accomplished ladies who are going to share their insights about IoT and smart manufacturing. First one, we have Shefali Bansal from IBM. She's a program director there. And we have Kanchan Pant, who's a chief operating officer at Sharda Industries, and also a founder and head of business development at A2 IoT AI in manufacturing, a very interesting company. So, thank you, Shefali and Kanchan, for joining us today for this panel discussion. Kanchan, if you can turn on your camera. That's Kanchan and Shefali for you. So I have already set
Hello.
the context and tone for the presentation, and we are going to be, talking first about how you are seeing, this manufacturing industry overall evolving, and then if you can also bring everyone up to the speed and your, central theme about the IoT and technology. So, Shefali, we first go with you. Over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Prashant, and a very warm hello to the audience for this panel discussion. As Prashant, you rightly said, uh, what we are seeing in the market in the digitization space today around smart manufacturing is no longer, I would say, something which is going to happen. It is happening today. We are seeing clients adopting it, and I've been engaged in some of the close engagements where our clients are adopting this digitization journey, where we are involving products like IoT, AI, and one thing which is very important when we talk of digitization journey is that it doesn't happen overnight, right? And it's as we call it as a journey. It starts with the different phases where we have clients kind of really starting to digitize their first shop floors and embedding the sensors, and then we start to gather data, and then we take the whole value proposition about data gathering, data analysis, and then how do we bring in prescriptive and descriptive kind of capabilities. But in summary, what I do want to share is that this is real. We have clients adopting this across industries. We have good cases where clients have adopted this, especially in the automotive space, around their shop floor, weld floor, paint floors. And that is one side of the spectrum. We also have clients which are adopting this in industries as mining itself. Mining was always considered as a laggard industry when it comes to the adoption of technology, but we are seeing a lot of adoption happening in industries as mining itself. And there have been basic business drivers which are kind of really driving it, more like with the integration of the horizontal and the vertical value chains, the way digitization of business models is happening. These are some of the paradigms which are really thrusting the push towards Industry 4.0. And as we go through the panel, we'll talk more about some of these aspects.
Oh yes, absolutely. Thanks, Shefali, for those opening remarks. And we know the depth and breadth of your knowledge and a vast experience that you have working with a company like IBM. We want you to unlock your smart planet wisdom and share with us as how this machine intelligence is set to change the context of today's manufacturing. Well, we also have Kanchan. So Kanchan, on your opening remarks, if you can share your experiences, because I think you are one of those rare brains who actually have come from manufacturing and also moved into an IT or a technology business, but by first adopting it in manufacturing, making it a success, what we call as a success story or a use case, and then you have set up a company in artificial intelligence itself. So we would certainly like to understand from you how, from that lens, you first look at the technology transition and impact. And we also would like to subsequently understand your woman entrepreneurial journey, that how from a manufacturing to a tech startup, what that has been. And I would also like you to share that, because AI and machine learning is like getting into a new age tech startup kind of a mindset for companies, and there are a lot of manufacturing larger companies who are wanting to operate like a startup. So I think you bring in this very unique and a rare blend of your experience on both sides. Over to you, Kanchan.
Thank you, Prashant, for this lovely introduction, and I am glad to be part of this panel, and so to get an audience of this nature is a real pleasure. To answer your question, Prashant, actually I noticed when I was starting to embark on our IoT journey that most of the IoT companies were not understanding what manufacturing companies are actually looking to do and what they expect out of them. And we were also facing problems such as not understanding what kind of technical requirements they were looking for. What is it that they wanted as a setup in our factory? And those particular differences was causing a lot of problems in terms of adoption. I also found that there were other challenges. So startup companies usually have people who are very young age, people, and manufacturing is primarily an old old school company. So they find startup companies very too young, and maybe because there aren't enough here there, don't trust them enough. The other also problem is that startups, will they survive or not? So it is kind of a challenge to trust startups. And so I thought that while I was going through my manufacturing companies upkeep and upgrade to go to automation, that why not get on to the startup of a AI and ML company that can cater to IoT needs of companies such as Sharda Industries. So I have been doing that and working towards that, and that is the reason that, or the driving force to do it. I also feel that MSMEs and people like us who are not OEMs, are tier ones and tier two companies, are not clear about what it is exactly that we should in fact convert into IoT or convert into automation, especially when AI and ML is coming up. So we need a proper sort of guideline on how to go doing, have a plan in place on how to go about doing that, and understand that there is steps and a budget that is required to go to where we want to go in terms of our adoption of automation. uh, the A Squared IoT startup actually works on a lot of vision and sound based analytics, and those particular analytics actually help in process manufacturing. So we are working, with a lot of other large companies to help adopt particular technologies in the market space. So Sharda Industries acts as a test bed for that. Over to you, Prashant. Thank you for the question.
Well, that's quite wonderful. So let's
Yeah,
take it actually
sure.
forward from here. And Kanchan, you actually made some very interesting remarks, and you actually have become from a buyer or a consumer of these tech services. As a manufacturing company, you have become a solution provider, and that itself actually creates a basis that how people can seek opportunities, that AI and IoT, machine learning, these kind of technology is not only going to cost you, but it will actually create a new offering that you can do. And that's, I think, one of the key takeaways from Kanchan's opening remarks. So Kanchan, continuing the momentum of what you have been sharing is what are the some critical important challenges that you see in companies adopting smart manufacturing, and if you can give some of your real life examples, not only on the technology side, but the process efficiencies. If you look at the people and their mindsets, because when you're going digitized and automation way, how does that affect the adoption of the smart manufacturing journey? And what has been your learnings in this, if you have to give that as a message to the peers, that what are those do's and don'ts, and what are those critical success factors of this digitization journey?
So Prashant, continuing from what Shefali was saying, and also what you were saying about two, levels where there is the top floor and the shop floor. MSMEs face that as a challenge. So in the top floor, there are certain things that you need to understand about cloud computing, about understanding, whether you're going to do certain things on premise on the server, or you're going to do certain things on the cloud, having an ERP system in place, having good email services, having good communication tools like web connects like Cisco systems, or some of these particular tools to be able to have a good IT infrastructure in place. So that you don't have any downtime. So broadband redundancies are another key important things. The pandemic actually helped all of us to kind of jumpstart that, because I think a lot of us were not thinking about upgrading our IT infrastructure that much, and this kind of pushed us in that direction. This pandemic pushed us faster, to adopt all these technologies. So while the top floor is doing this, they are feeling the need to also get data from the shop floor. But there is a big challenge over there, because you see most of the equipment and machinery that is there in the factories are productive machinery which are old and not be replaced, or would buy a lot of capex to be replaced. Digitizing those particular machines is going to be something that is going to prove a problem. It proved a problem while we were adopting technologies on our shop floor, adding sensors to those machines, making sure that those sensors are emitting necessary data to the platform, so that that data can be captured and analyzed for the management to make certain decisions, is a tough task. The third problem that is there is actually related to the platforms. So let's say an IoT company is out there offering preventive maintenance solutions for machines, but they are not offering any solution for part inspection, or they are not offering any solutions related to let's say productivity, OE, or any of these things. So each of those companies will come with their own platform, and those particular platforms are not going to talk to each other, right? So that is going to prove to be a big problem. MSMEs actually find it extremely difficult to keep having to toggle between multiple platforms. So selling to MSMEs is going to be a massive challenge for all technology companies, because they will have to make sure that it becomes an easy adoption system for MSMEs. Thank you, Prashant.
That's quite interesting, Kanchan, and some good takeaways from your experience, that how you can bring in technology in business and make a business out of technology. And some very good pointers, I'm sure, our friends in manufacturing will take away in terms of do's and don'ts. So let me go to Shefali now. Shefali, what do you think should be the capabilities, or the competencies when you want to do your what they call is as the AI infused smart manufacturing for the better and assured business outcomes?
Sure, Prashant. Just taking on from where Kanchan left, right? So she did bring up the real challenges that the organizations face in terms of the when we kind of really look at clients' journey, we can break this digitization journey into two parts. One is at the top floor, shop floor level of segmentation. But when we look from a technology vector perspective, we can actually split this into three parts. One would be the layer which is all about shop floor integration. So I call it as data integration layer, And it is important that the platforms today, which are being formed, are kind of catering to open systems where they allow for integration across different systems of record, systems of truth, right? So this and this is the integration layer, which is where we actually have to really play with a lot of ecosystem partners, because here what we are talking of is integrating the data which is coming from a sensor which may be put on a machine like a compressor. Here, the other part, maybe we have some system and data at rest, which may be coming from an ERP system. We may require also some of the data which is coming from edge devices, etc., so that we can actually take actions at a real quick pace. So there is one layer, I call it as integration and onboarding data layer. And to really get to the second layer, which is my AI infused layer, I call it, is a layer where now once I have all this data coming in, how do I kind of really have tools and processes and methodology in place in the platform so that this data can be analyzed and insights can be generated. And this is to Kanchan's point, where clients struggle because today they may have one vendor providing them just the data, data onboarding via IoT, and putting that data into the system, but they don't know what to do with that system. So it's important that the platform also caters to handling of some of the challenges related to big data. It has tools to provide insights from the data that is coming in. And the third layer, I call it, which is on top of it, is all about the different outcomes and the use cases that the clients are today trying to solve. So, for example, if we just take asset performance management kind of a space, we should have some of the ready-built use cases to solve, say, predictive failure for a critical asset kind of a use case. I should have ability to be able to have the maintenance technicians, where he can actually be given a recommendation of what to do when things fail. So we need to then have, as I call this as a third layer, which is all about industry specific use cases and outcomes that the client wants to drive. So a platform should be all encompassing these three layers. And if we can have these three layers, then we don't need to have clients really trying to look for multiple vendors to do certain things. We would still need certain set of vendors when it comes to the ERP part of it. But then from a AI platform perspective, I look at these three dimensions as very important dimensions. And when I look at the clients who are adopting this kind of an approach, clients are at varied level of maturity. And some of them who are starting their journey today probably are starting first phase. As Kanchan said, there needs to be a roadmap to their digitization. So a lot of them are starting in the data capture, digitization of their assets, etc. But we also have other classes of clients where we have they are directly jumping into AI infused layer, and they want to kind of really generate insights from the data which they're already collecting, and they're bringing in more cognitive kind of use cases using machine computer vision, NLP, etc. And they are ahead of the curve. So client adoption depends on where the clients are in their journey and how they want to take it. So we're seeing different facets on the adoption as well. So important to have standard-based platforms which can definitely fasten the journey towards smart manufacturing.
Quite interesting and valid points, Shefali. Thanks for that. In fact, I liked your term that infused AI and how it becomes integral part of the business and the organization and a daily routine. And we've seen from the computerization to now digitization, making things and processes and people smart. We are marching towards the cognitive intelligence era, and that also brings some challenges and opportunities because digitization is automating the processes, but On other side, if you see, the cognitive is also giving, imposing some challenges on the dependency on the people and the human side of it, which also has some social aspect on the society and humanity as a whole. So when you are talking about the challenges, and you rightly mentioned that there is a structured data which is actually coming from your business applications, and then there's a unstructured data, especially in manufacturing. This is a gold mine, which is your machine, device, sensor, which we call as a black box kind of a data. How you are being able to access, analyze, predict, and act on this kind of a data, and you brought that out quite easily and effectively. How digitization or maybe RPA kind of technologies can be adopted, so that you are making your traditional machines to semi-smart to full smart, because the kind of capital investments that it actually has. Uh, Manufacturing cannot simply overnight move to a completely smart machines or factories. But again, thanks to the lockdowns that has imposed the need and the dependency on not only digitization, but remote working, we call it as workforce and the workplace. Everything has been disrupted, and that's where some of these technologies are becoming more and more relevant in today's context. Shefali, my question to you is that when you look at it from this angle, and you have touched upon certain, the challenges, what you think would be the solutions? Uh, Means, how do you actually help companies in do cost and a value justification? Because we also often see that these investments do not produce return on investment initially, or they're little long term, or companies have to also experiment and evolve from the failures. So if you can also throw some light on that, that why these sometimes fail, and when people are actually, companies are in that deadlock, what they need to do, or they need to do things in the right way, and what are those kind of technologies and partnerships that they want to build? Because when you talk about IoT, artificial intelligence, you're talking about deep digital technologies, a very different kinds of skill sets and mindsets that needs to be embraced. And because they are not only a traditional tribal skills in manufacturing, it adds a very different dimensions to it. So from your vast experience of so many global implementations, if you can share with us what you think can help us in increasing the success rate and the return on investment part.
Yeah, sure, Prashant. It's as you rightly said, it the ROI and the return seen by the clients is not very fast in this industry. But we have seen certain patterns which have helped client. One is we've seen clients who are kind of really adopting more like a phased approach towards their digitization journey, have been mostly been successful. So what I mean by phased approach here is that when I look at say a car shop floor, right? Or let me take an example of an oil and gas company, right? The companies do not go all out to kind of take this step forward because they have to see their return on investment, especially around AI. We still see clients not really trusting AI, and that has been a challenge. And how we have been able to demystify is that often we start small, we call it as an MVP phase or a pilot phase, where we have the clients sharing the data, and we are able to kind of really prove value on the data and able to generate insights and show an ROI if they adopt it, what would be the benefit cost benefit analysis. That approach has been successful, and we still, I would say, when we look at clients, the transition from a pilot to an adoption to a rollout is still fairly slow because of various challenges around inadequate data, or not having sufficient digitization to be able to give data, so that the AI insights that gets generated are bringing in that high confidence score in the predictive models, etc. Having said that, this is an approach which has been fairly successful. The other approach which we have seen really clients adopting is in the partnership space. One thing which is very important, while there is all this technology platforms there, that today clients don't want to change their existing infrastructure, and that's where a lot of these clients already have their IoT platforms in place. So it's important that the clients kind of choose a platform where their current existing platforms do not have to change. Their current probably IoT, and they may also have an AI system that doesn't change. And on top of it, they bring in a platform which kind of provides them the delta capabilities which are required in the platform. We have seen clients with starting from scratch trying to build an IoT platform. I think that is not something which is required in today's space, because platforms, IoT platforms and data onboarding itself has become a very commoditized space with the cloud coming in. So it's important to kind of really, I would say, look at inorganic and organic balance in terms of when they take their digitization journey. And partnership in that space has been really jump starting for a lot of our clients. That has been the second aspect that we have seen. Other than that, I would say there is something called as we use something like a BVA analysis, which is more like cost benefit analysis. Often the clients do not really see what return they will get when they adopt it. So having doing some sort of an initial 2 to 3 weeks of an assessment of clients' current state versus where they want to be, and what would be the kind of investment and benefits working with the client and the domain experts has been an eye opener for a lot of the clients as well, and which have given them clarity around, okay, I can invest this much, I cannot invest this much, probably I can do next year. So BVA kind of business value assessment kind of exercise is the dimension which we have seen work well with clients in their adoption journey.
Oh yeah, absolutely valid points, and very sharply focused, I must say. Uh, Let me go to Kanchan. So Kanchan, you made some very interesting remarks, during your both rounds, and I have a specific question because you come from a manufacturing and SME segment, and you have actually shown, what we were discussing with Shefali just now, that why large enterprises are finding it difficult and challenging to adopt, and there are the failure rates are very high as per the global surveys and benchmarks. But you have done that quite successfully at the scale, and especially in India, while the industry 4.0 and IoT was just booting up, and from there you actually have replicated your success and actually build a tech startup from that itself. So we want to know from you. One is that how what were the factors that actually made you achieve this success, and what's your message, advice to our friends in manufacturing, especially in the SMEs and MSME segments, because this is a segment which is creating the highest employment as well as has a very very significant contributions in the Indian manufacturing and GDP, as a whole. And what we are seeing, the lockdowns and some of the remote workings and technology adoptions are creating some turmoil for this manufacturing and SME segment. So, what is your advice that how they can do this adoption more meaningful, and how they can help the businesses not just get back on track quickly, but to innovate and to grow from there. Over to you, Kanchan.
So Prashant, thank you. I mean, I think most of the time the question has been, how do I, or as a company, how we are straddling between the technology adoption and the manufacturing. So like I mentioned earlier, we have made a budgeted system or a solution in place, and a time plan in place that is a 5-year plan, like business. any company is making a business plan, a similar thing needs to be done about technology adoption, automation, any of those things, because you have to identify exactly what it is that you know are uh, going to change so that it gives you the maximum benefits for a long time. So we have made a plan, and we are in the third year of rolling out that plan. But it is not that we have not had challenges. I mean, the tech challenges is one thing. There is also the people challenge involved. So certain supervisors, certain operators, may not actually want this kind of technology or sensors added because they feel threatened, or they feel that they are being monitored in some way. So, for example, we have rolled out a smart CCTV camera solution in one of our factories. This is to actually check PPE compliance or adherence. So, PPE is basically, personal protective equipment. So, helmets, goggles, now masks as well, social distancing. So, these kinds of things are to ensure that following the necessary protocol of safety in the factory. People feel somehow threatened, with that in place, or even stroke rate or stroke speed, OE. They are not very comfortable about it. So it is very kind of important to convince them that this is important for us and we have to do it. Also, this technology adoption has to happen from the top down. So the top man has to feel that they want to have this technology in the company, and that even if it doesn't give an ROI in, let's say 2 years, 3 years, that it is going to give a long term benefit. So, for example, we also have a part inspection system that is put in Sharda, where we have a 3 camera conveyor through which the part is inspected from all 3 sides. We have multiple parts that need inspecting. It has not reduced the number of quality inspectors in my factory immediately, but I am expecting that once the unstructured data are better mapped, that the AI and ML will help us actually reduce the number of people that we are employing only for the purposes of inspection. So I think that there is an ROI that will come later on. Uh, my liking for technology led me to want to be part of this, and I am very fortunate that I am part of the team that has one person who is in embedded engineering and another person who is in data analytics already. I provide the domain expertise. So the manufacturing area, and Sharda, like I said earlier, provides the test bed. So POCs and all the necessary proofing of the technology happens in Sharda's factory and the shop floor. So like Shefali mentioned earlier about the ROI, and we keep talking about it. You have to allow a technology to mature and then talk about ROIs, and that's where I think the appetite, MSME's appetite is, is going to prove a challenge, and it is proving a challenge for us also to allocate resources and money to it.
Fantastic. That's quite enriching, and I must thank both of you for bringing in your rich experience to make this complex subject look very easy. We also touched upon independent of scale and the sector in manufacturing, how this technology can bring in not just a productivity acceleration automation, but more of an innovation led impact that it can make. And I'm convinced that technology is not going to cost us. It's not going to make it economically challenging for us, but it is going to create opportunities. And what happened in the 70s, that when computerization was introduced in India, there were a certain section of industry and society, they felt that the computerization might actually take away some jobs. Of course it does. It did automated certain routine rudimentary processes, and it brought in some simplified ways of work, but it actually created much more and high paying jobs than the kind of jobs it took away, and also made India an IT superpower in the world. So similarly, when we actually look at, there are so many initiatives also by government, and that's also one of the reason why Indo-American chambers kind of associations are building these industry linkages, and Automation Alley is also partnering with us to evangelizing on these subjects, and how it can create more sustainable opportunities for businesses to adopt these technologies, and make their innovation possible as well as more impactful. So I thank you on behalf of Indo-American Chambers for sparing your time and sharing your valuable knowledge with us. And we certainly look forward to this continued association. Would also look forward if you could, help some of our aspiring SME companies and some of the members of chambers from Pune, while they are seeking to adopt these kind of technologies for your guidance, mentorship, and your solutions. So thank you once again for being with us.
Okay, well, thank you for that great panel discussion, Prashant, Kanchan, and Shefali. I've got a couple of questions that have come in from the audience and from other places. So if you don't mind, I'll just go ahead, and perhaps this first one I can ask Shefali, but if Prashant or Kanchan, you want to add anything, then please do. The first question I have for you is, how do you bring in a startup mindset into large and manufacturing companies? Shefali, what would you say?
Yes, so today, as we are seeing, we are in an age of VUCA, right? With so much volatility, uncertainty happening, right? So the large companies have to really take on a very agile and a startup kind of a mindset, and we are seeing it happening across big companies. In fact, it's the way we are actually building products and platforms. It's in a very much an agile and a startup kind of a mindset. And besides, what we are also doing is we're working very closely with the startups themselves, to kind of augment some of the functionalities which the startups do much better than the big organizations, especially in manufacturing, because there are a lot of niche areas which it will take a lot of time for big companies to really plug it in. So there is a good collaboration also happening with the startups, and in that sharing of knowledge, there is always the startups rubbing onto the big corporation also in the way they should be doing things. So that's my views, and definitely would look to hear from Prashant and Kanchan as well, because they're also working closely with the startups.
Yeah.
So
Prashant,
Kanchan,
maybe
do you
go.
want to add? Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, I mean, because I'm also part of a startup, which was also part of a incubator, we were very lucky to be, taken on by Cisco and also by NASCOM to, really understand how to go about, handling a startup. Um, that being said, it still, leaves you kind of hanging, because large companies who are the customers, who are the ones who we want to sell to, they are still skeptical about startups, right? They don't want to touch startups, don't know if they are going to survive. If the founder decides that he is going to get more money out of VC and just sell the technology away, then the person, the manufacturing company and MSME, if they decide to take a startup on board to do some solution for them, are going to be left high and dry. So there are certain problems that really need to kind of be resolved when it comes to creating the entire ecosystem between customers who are the adopters, the large companies like IBM, and the startup ecosystem, so that everybody gets what they're looking for, and that's a solution I think is still pending.
Okay, Prashant, would you add anything to that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's a very relevant and apt point, because in today's world, what's happening is that it's not the bigger fish that will eat the smaller fish, but it is the faster fish that beats the slower fish. And from that analogy, how you are being able to innovate, disrupt faster, and startup is actually being nimble, focusing market to be able to, not have overheads, but being fit, being lean, and being able to create an impact with what we call as an asset light business models. And that asset light is actually, empowering with AI. So you would have a very heavy engineering monolithic, giants who would be very influencing in your overall supply chain. But if you now look at the other ecosystem partners who are actually taking away the larger pie, who have been able to demonstrate or achieve an exponential growth, is these type of asset light companies who are being able to embrace and adopt these machine learning and AI technologies. So conventionally in manufacturing, you would have raw material as an input, then you have process, and then output. Now that is been replaced in the world of AI is input, machine learning, and impact. Right. So that is what is making that smart and a fast mindset as a startup culture, I feel.
No, very good point. Very good point. And, we talked about ecosystems, and Kanchan, you mentioned this. So perhaps you're the right person to ask this question to. How do you solve the connectivity between the startup, the company, and the customer? There are accelerator programs all over the place, and you mentioned that you'd been part of one. But often the aim of those incubation or acceleration programs are to get VC funding, as opposed to being plugged into a larger entity that can actually use your solution. So how do you solve that connectivity? What do you think are some of the answers?
So I do, Vandana, see a lot of, larger corporations like, Siemens or even for that matter, SAP coming up with, platforms which they are letting startups kind of, with the APIs kind of connect to that and use those platforms. But the problem still remains, now because I'm also part of an MSME, and here,
Yeah.
my company, we have an ERP system which is kind of homegrown and not SAP. And that whole ecosystem, if we start looking at SAP, which is very expensive when it comes to software,
Yes.
very expensive when it comes to customization, per seat, a company like Sharda Industries cannot pay for these kinds of solutions. So finding a solution that is not, going to burn you and yet give you the solution you are looking for is a very fine line. We are looking for that balance as a customer. As a startup, obviously, we want to piggyback on larger corporations and say that, you get us that customer and we'll solve that problem for them. You have
Right.
other problems that you are solving for them. Let's say you're, doing certain blockchain things for them, and you're doing other solutions for them. And here is another thing, we can also give you a preventive maintenance solution that you can, add into these mix of things that you offer to the customer. So why not add us into that? I think that would really accelerate the adoption as well as the provision of the solution, both on both sides, I think.
So am I correct in understanding what you're basically saying is if you're already doing something for them, look at how you can expand it?
Yeah, sort of. I think, they already handhold enough. So, like I
Yeah.
said, all these incubators, I mean, they really give you a lot of things, some of it on a platter. So, I'm not saying that, you should ask them that, please take us
Yes.
also further ahead in this. But I think that they get approached by customers because they are reliable and they have been, in business for a long
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
manufacturing companies like ours, value that kind of longevity. We look
Yeah.
at SAP or we look at IBM or all these people who have been there for years. We are going
Yeah.
to trust them because they are there.
Yeah.
A startup which has a 20-year-old, somebody who, today is all gung-ho about his idea right now, and then he's going to move on to another idea, is what
Yeah.
that customer is thinking, right? I mean, it's a valid worry, not wrong at all. So
Okay. Shefali, would you add anything?
Yeah, so if we kind of really look from a client and big companies standpoint, I think there is definitely niche skills that the startups do bring in. However, if you look from a client perspective, one is the longevity that Kanchan spoke of. The other aspects, which as a client, I have to be really sure that the offering or the product which the startup is trying to bring in, is it safe, is it secure, will it scale up? So those are the practical aspects that as a client I should be ready to risk, or I kind of see that they partner with a bigger company so that some of these challenges get addressed. So that's another aspect that we see clients kind of really concerned about when they have to work with startups.
So what you're basically saying is if MSMEs or anyone comes to you, if they can bring you, say that we've thought about the security, we've thought about all these other aspects, then there's someone that you'd be more trusting of perhaps
Yeah,
taking out to a client. Yeah?
that's right. That's right.
Okay, great. Prashant, anything you'd like to add?
Um, yeah, I mean, this is a quite an interesting point because when we are talking about connectivity, let me just bring in some little different dimensions to it. Because today things are connected with things, people are connected with things, and people things are again connected with people. So we talk about this as an Internet of Things. Uh,
Mm,
we look at it also as data of everything. And today
mm,
what is happening is it's not about investing in a complex large engineering plant, but how well you are being able to understand, analyze, engage deeply,
mm,
meaningfully with your customers. And what has happened in past few years is that the buying behaviors have actually created a market pressure where the focus has shifted from creators to consumers, and we are living in a consumer led economy where the demands, I mean, if you look at just probably Uber kind of a model, it is being disrupted, that rather than you aspiring to own a vehicle, an engineering product, your needs are being refined as a consumption, in a consumption economy, and
mm,
everything is being redefined. And
mm,
your intelligent asset light products are giving you a very differentiated experience, and companies are not only winning because they can give some product or a complex technology, but how they can engage with their customer on a real time basis. So what's
mm,
happening in a corporate world, those quarterly business review are fading away, and your engagement scores are popping up. So when you want to live in that kind of a digital currency economy, it is very essential that how you are empowering your business models and processes with AI and machine learning kind of technologies.
sure. Got it. All right. Well, thank you very much, Prashant. Thank you, Kanchan, and thank you, Shefali. Thank you so much for being our final panel on day one of IACC. It was great to have you here. So, big thank you to all of you. And we're going to be sending you a virtual certificate. It's going to be landing in your inboxes. And on your behalf, in your honor, we will be planting a tree to say thank you very much for being part of IACC and Automation Alley's Integrate 2021. So thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you, and
you.
you have a good evening ahead.
Thank you. All right, everyone, that brings us to the close of day one. We've had an amazing day where we've heard from, luminaries like the CEO of Invest India, the chairperson of Thermax, and of course our panel that we have that's just appeared now. If you want to see any of the videos will be available to watch. Don't forget the poll questions. Don't forget to go and visit our exhibitors. And we look forward to seeing you sharp at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, and good evening or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Thanks for joining in.